What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? Freshman year of college, the guy across the hall from me is a spoiled rich kid from a big southern city. Old money clearly coming out his ass. A couple weeks into the second semester, he and a buddy found a checkbook on the sidewalk. Stupid fuckers decided to write themselves a check and cash it in the bank that the account is in. The teller immediately called the cops and they both got arrested. We talked the night he got arrested and he laughed and said his dad would take care of it and everything would be fine. That weekend we met his dad as they moved everything out of the dorms since his dumbass got expelled. Guess daddy didn't take care of it. If he's not being charged with a felony, his dad pulled through. If he's still facing charges, his dad still bailed him out. His dad definitely took care of the situation. I went to school with a kid who always had a new fancy car or truck because his dad owned one of the biggest construction companies in the area. This kid was a major douche and double/triple parked his big trucks all the time. Once he got some sort of fast fancy car and went over 110 miles per hour and was getting chased by state police. He had friends in the car that were telling him to stop and slow down, but he wouldn't. I believe he was also drunk. But he ended up crashing into a business doing a ton of damage. He got hit with 3 to 4 felonies. Driving over 100 miles per hour is a crime in most states, and he got multiple kidnapping charges because the passengers were freaking out. Dude never came back to school, and I have no clue what he's doing now. Edit. To clarify, it was on normal street roads, not the freeway/highway. Edit 2. My bad, not a felony for driving fast, but for the attempted kidnapping. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window, and one proceeded to tell me about her great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday, with no adult in the party, just a bunch of teenage girls out in Vegas, where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security, and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them in W/out being 21. The anger turns to tears. The security guard is unmoved. That's their parents' fault. A stupid 18th birthday gift. Somewhat distant relative spent all of his university years and 20s partying hard with the 100-120k allowance his rich company owning father gave him each year. He'd travel the world each year, going to Bali, Thailand, Europe, every year Oktoberfest, just rampaging. At 32 or so, he decided to settle in upscale ski resort area of the US and open a business with his hot gold digger fiancée. When he went to transfer his money to his US bank account, he noticed it only came to a few $1,000s. He angrily asked the bank worker why she hadn't transferred the entire amount, only to be told that that was the entire amount. His father had cut him off without saying anything, and he just hadn't noticed. Absolute flatline. About 10 years ago, I was having a pint with a friend of mine. His family shit gold, I swear. I mentioned I was struggling with rent and bills while in college, and he just said, "Get your mum to pay for it then, mate. She's disabled and we've never had real money." He instantly realized what he said and did feel bad about it. I think it was the first time he really understood that not everyone has their parents to lean on financially. It's good that he realized so fast. Most people in that position are happy staying ignorant. Oh, I have one. I used to work at Starbucks and there was a girl that was just newly hired and in training. Mind you, she was 20 years old and her parents made her get a job. She grew up in a very wealthy family. On her first or second day, I had instructed her to do the dishes to help catch us up for closing. She looked at me with these lost eyes and told me she doesn't know how. Apparently she grew up with housemaids and literally has never cleaned a dish in her entire life. I had to teach her step by step how to clean a dish, but she learned on the job instead of throwing a tantrum and walking out. She's got that going for her. Local business owner puts son through college and more. When kid graduates with multiple degrees, dad decides to retire and turn over business to son. Son brings college cronies on board, has management all wear white cowboy hats and drive white pickups, begins revamping business. Dad comes out of retirement pronto, gets rid of son and cronies. Years later bankrolls son's run for state rep. The son lost. Dad dies and leaves business to daughter. Here's a switch. Highly successful local doctor/politician expects son to attend medical school and become doctor. Son opts out, gets job with new company called Costco, pumping gas. He's been with that company ever since. Just his regular pay raises and bonus checks give him a good life. He just didn't want the high stress life his dad had. Saw a college guy with a ridiculously expensive car. Can't remember the model. Rear-end this woman who drove an absolute beater. Her car was definitely totaled and his wasn't looking that hot either. He got out and started screaming at this woman. She was in tears. He kept telling her that she was going to pay for this. When the cops came, I saw each of them give their statements. After that, me and like 10 people came forward and gave our witness statements. It sounded like each and every one of us put complete fault on him, which was the truth. When the cops went back to him, I saw his face just sink. He probably told them it was her fault and just found out that 2 handfuls of people just confirmed that he's full of shit. I've never seen that many witnesses stick around for a simple traffic accident. I think the other people felt the same way I did. That kid was a douche and should be punished for what he did. I saw Justin Bieber throw a shit fit and end up not getting what he wanted. We have quarterly team building exercises at my company where you basically go and play minigolf or some other activity capped at $25/person. Sometime between 2009 and 2011. I really can't remember exactly. My group just decided to go for a fancy lunch in downtown Portland. After lunch we took one of our coworkers to the semi-famous Nike store, which was a couple of blocks away, and that was the day Justin Bieber happened to show up. When he and his entourage arrived he said something somewhat loudly along the lines of "You're going to have to leave for a bit cause I'm here to do some shopping," and some of his people acted like they were going to try and politely force the already present customers out of the store so Bieber could shop alone, but the Nike employees even more politely told him that was not possible. At that point Bieber lost it. I mean, he threw a total tantrum because they wouldn't shut down the store for him. The tantrum didn't work and he and his folks left in a huff. That's really my only celebrity in the wild encounter and it's freaking lame. A kid from my high school came from a well-known family that was very involved in politics. He slacked off in school and was mostly a condescending ass for years. After graduation, he didn't really do anything, but eventually decided to run for office as he had the same name as his father. He won easily because people didn't realize it was the kid. As a state rep, he posted on Facebook about enjoying his women battered rather than plain and asking to join the Black Caucus because he liked hip hop. He also dropped a loaded gun on the floor in the middle of a session after fighting for the right to carry a gun in the state, housed as a responsible gun owner. He kept getting elected despite these issues because his family was well connected and he had a dedicated following from some political groups. After 6 years in office, he gets busted for soliciting sex from a minor over the internet. When they arrest him for that, they also discover he's been dealing drugs. The worst part is that his family is actually super nice and genuinely made the community a better place, but now they have to deal with all the issues from him. He was an apple that fell very far from the tree. All throughout high school, for alphabetical reasons, my locker was right next to the son of the owner of a 200-store chain of convenience stores in our region. He was incredibly socially inept. I felt bad for him. We developed kind of a weird little friendship where we only ever talked at our lockers, but we had these little 2-minute deep conversations. Mostly focused on him getting bullied and me advising him to just chill out and stop running his mouth so much, because that was why it was happening. He was obnoxious to classmates and teachers alike, and he reveled in it. He'd brag about his family's money and just generally play the part of a spoiled rich kid, almost like he felt like he had to. He liked being hated/envied to some extent, but he also hated being an outcast. He did listen when I told him about the stuff that was bothering me. I was shy and felt ignored and excluded all the time. There was absolutely a kernel of a good human being in him. He was actually an important person to me in a way. I never told anyone else about that stuff back then. His behavior came back to bite him the week after the Columbine massacre. He decided to purchase and wear a black trench coat to school in the style of the school shooters. After a few days of him wearing that throughout the day, just to be a dick, he got cornered by some kids and absolutely pummeled. They broke his nose, he was up. He'd been basically asking for it, so I'm not sure what he expected. I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with the spare set of keys to the car they had bought him and just drove off with the car. I don't know why this story reminds me of one of my friends who was a rich kid, partied every single night, and still got straight A's in aerospace engineering, and is a really successful engineer to date. I still have no clue how he managed it. I'm talking the rowdiest person I know, but school was just easy for him. I remember I had a class with him. He never studied. We sat next to each other during the tests. He'd be hungover and miss one question. I'd study my ass off and get a C. When I was a teenager, my sister and I saw through our windows that there were two guys getting into her car. We ran downstairs as fast as possible and caught them in the act. One managed to run away, but the other one froze and didn't run away. He couldn't have been much older than me. My sister called the cops and the kid kept looking at us and trying to find a way to escape. My sister said, "Run if you want. My brother will catch you." The cops came, and so did his parents. His mom drove a fucking amazing car and the lady looked furious and sad. She was dressed really nice and looked like she was pretty successful. As soon as she got out, she began yelling, "Why? We give you everything. You have everything. Why would you try and steal? Don't we give you enough?" The kid just seemed to shrink and get smaller. I don't get it. Fucking asshole. I hoped he turned his life around and began to be around better people. It was more surprising that someone could be so out of touch than anything. My boyfriend's roommate is 19 and runs a very successful online business, lives in LA, buys new clothes, including $2,500 sneakers, without a second thought, and despite growing up without much money, is very out of touch. I was sick while visiting, and he told me to visit the doctor. I don't have great insurance, and was already juggling other bills, so I told him I couldn't afford it with how much I get paid at my part-time convenience store job. He asked how much I got paid. $9.80 an hour. I get paid a little under $200 every 2 weeks. He was so taken aback. This man was so surprised that I was working my ass off with school, a job, and an internship and still lived on about $100 a week. He still bothered me about going to the doctor, but offered to help me out if I needed it. The worst part is $9.80 is pretty good for a job at the university I attend. I was really happy with the pay. Edit. I don't live in LA and $9.80 is well above minimum wage in my state. I live in dorms and scholarships cover that, so $100 a week is groceries and incidentals. Not great, but definitely livable. Thanks to everyone who was concerned though. Close bracket. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.